Well, thanks for spending your Sunday doing this. I know it's a
No
lovely
problem.
day. Yeah, it's a lovely day, and I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'll keep it very straightforward. And let's start by just introducing yourself and what you do.
So I am Brogan Cooper-Wilby, and I am a sales executive for Peabody London.
Thank you. And one of the key things, especially during this time, that I'd really like to hear from people is just how they're keeping motivated on a day-to-day basis, especially during this crisis. But in general, what keeps you kind of going in your role?
Well, I've always kind of enjoyed helping people. Growing up, I never really knew quite what I wanted to do. But I started kind of in customer services and helping people into rented accommodation. And then kind of sales is also, helping people get onto the property ladder, especially with products such as shared ownership, which is what I prominently do. So kind of just, helping people is what, makes me love my job and why I keep going. And times like this, even more so. At the moment, I'm kind of juggling about 40 live sales across 2 developments. And as you can imagine, people buying a house at this time are going to have so many worries, worries about their financial circumstances and just worries about the housing market in general. So I'm really glad that we've continued as a business to keep going, so we can provide that support to people.
That's great. And is that kind of average? Sorry, I have very, very little knowledge on in terms of the sales side of things. So is that kind of average in terms of how many you'd be dealing at once? It seems like quite a lot to me.
So obviously Peabody, we are one of the largest housing providers in London, and we've got a really big sales programme. So for example, I have about 100 properties on my developments, so that's across 2 developments. And at a time, I think on average we have about 30 sales progressing at a time. Can sometimes be more, sometimes a little bit less. But we do kind of work with high numbers. We do kind of take a personal approach. We like to pick up the phone, not just kind of generic emails. So it is quite time consuming, but buying a property is probably one of the biggest things the person's going to do in their lifetime. So I think taking the time to have that personal, one-on-one approach is necessary.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's not like a small it's not like a small decision really. It's pretty much
it's massive.
It's a massive one. Yeah, exactly. I can see that. I mean, of course, everyone's kind of working from home at the moment. And before we started recording, you mentioned you've been working from home for, was it 6 weeks? Or was it 6 weeks?
Next week will be my 6th week.
6 weeks, okay. And I guess how are you finding it in general? Did you previously kind of work from home? Some people have been working from home 1 day, 2 days, or not really?
Yeah, so we do have the facility to work from home. I do, see myself as quite tech savvy. However, because we obviously selling property, a big part of that is viewings. So a lot of the time I spent on site, where showing people show homes, that kind of thing. So I was always out and about from development to development. So it's been kind of a huge shift from constantly being in different environments to being at home 24/7. I used to really enjoy the odd day working from home, but I'm really missing the office environment, my developments. But I do think what we're doing at the moment is working well. I think we've been really resilient as a team, and proactive in our approach to continue selling homes. So we are doing virtual viewings, which we launched 2 weeks ago now. Last week, for example, I had 5 days straight of virtual viewings, so it's great to see that there's still such a high demand. We are trying to make it as low risk for people as possible, because obviously people are quite worried about how the market's going to go, as I said before, their financial circumstances. So they're able to kind of reserve a property. We get them out to do a physical viewing when we can, but that's kind of secured for them until that time.
That's really good. That's really good. And then, you know, as you mentioned before, it's such a, you know, big life kind of thing where you were thinking about this for possibly years at this point, and then you just got to the point where you're like, okay, gonna, you know, push the button, and then like this happens. So so I can imagine people are just literally at the last hurdle and they just actually want to get into a property.
I think because a lot of people have a bit more spare time on their hands, we've actually had huge like numbers of interest.
Wow.
Which I didn't expect at all.
I'm really surprised by that.
So am I. I think everyone knows that, you know, at some point it might not be, you know, in the near future, but this will pass,
of course,
and things will get back on track, and you know, you've just got to keep going.
And that's definitely the best attitude to have. What should I say? So in terms of your career and your role right now, is there something that you'd tell your younger self that you've kind of learned during this journey? Is there something you tell yourself like you wish you knew when you were younger?
What would I tell my younger self? Just kind of, you know, I never envisioned that I was going to be working in housing. I kind of just fell into it, like I think everyone in housing does. And kind of just to like trust the process. I think when you have a passion for something, you're always going to do well. And as I mentioned before, helping people, you know, that's what motivates me, keeps me going in my role. And, you know, as long as I can keep doing that, then, you know, I'm going to be happy.
Cool. That's great. And last question would be, so post COVID-19 and hopefully everything, there will be a new normal, of course, but what would you love to see kind of, continue post COVID-19? Or what would you like to see happen in the housing sector post COVID-19?
For me, it would be to continue this kind of digital push. We don't always have to be kind of bogged down in the office. Everyone knows that, you know, working from home works now. Everything's still, you know, ticking over. And especially the virtual viewings that I'm doing. So we have like virtual tours of our properties, talk people through, you know, the rooms and the specification of a property, just like we would on a normal viewing. But I definitely think it's a good tool for people who, you know, have just started looking, want to kind of know the standard of our homes, what kind of thing we can offer, before actually physically going there. There's no point kind of really wasting your time if it's not for you.
And
so
I can imagine
definitely digital,
and it's definitely so time consuming. I mean the traveling bit, but just kind of I'm sure the emotional side of things were going into play. Like, oh, actually it's not the right place, and then doing that 5-10, maybe not that many times, but doing that possibly multiple times, it must be kind of draining at one point where you're just kind of being rejected in a weird way again and again and again. So I guess
in a strange way, in a strange way, even though obviously we're not physically interacting with people, it's on Zoom, but ordinarily when we have like viewing days in person, they're kind of like group viewings. We have a high volume of people coming at once, maybe like 5-6 people every half hour. But the video calls, it's one-to-one.
Mm.
Again, just giving that kind of more personal feel.
Intimate. Yeah, 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 of course.
Yeah, getting a feel for what they're actually looking for, what they want. And then, if, for example, my development, I didn't kind of feel that was a right fit for them, I could, give them information on something else. So it's kind of just nice to spend that half an hour with someone. Yeah, I think it's working really well, and I'd like to see that continue.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I agree. I think the whole digital side of things, regardless of whether it's viewings or even just from my team, we do a lot of employment support, and typically we love to see people come into the office, and typically we always found that face to face always kind of generated a better idea of how to help the person, and of course they open up compared to over the phone. But if it was through video, which we probably never ever would have considered in the past, if we did it through video, it's just one of those things where you just kind of adapt to it, and it's still, over time, you still be able to get that same kind of nice personal, one-to-one feel that you would get face to face. Definitely, I agree with that. Okay, and that's really it from my side. I do want to get my 1 hour walk in, so I'm gonna I'm probably gonna head off outside in a bit. But no, thank you so much.